Welcome to It's All About Connection, NVC with Dr. B.
That was much better.
What?
That was much better.
It was. That was seamless. In today's episode, we are talking about faux feelings, aka thought feelings, aka what was the other one?
Fake feelings.
Fake feelings.
Right.
So we are talking about those. And an example of a faux feeling would be
There are so many. Okay, an example, they are words that we use that we usually say I feel, and then it comes after the I feel, and then it's a word, but it's not actually a feeling. It's not really an internal sensation. They are actually more thoughts that we're having about somebody, judgment, and we get these two things confused. We have talked about this, but I thought it would be really fun. We've talked about this previously, but I thought it would be fun to just
translate.
Yeah, like bring up a lot of these words that we use, because I think for some folks it will be mind blowing to hear, like, wait, that's not a feeling? What? I think could be very illuminating for our audience to hear some of the words that we consider to be not actual feelings, but really more thoughts. So I have a whole list of them. Can we read the list first and then we can play around?
Yeah. Are you going to read that whole list?
Yes, I think I will. I'll read the whole list because I think most people would be very surprised that these are not feelings. They are thoughts. I feel abused. Abused isn't a feeling. It's a thought that somebody is abusing you. I feel not accepted, antagonistic. I feel attacked, belittled, betrayed, blamed, bullied, cheated. I feel coerced, cornered, criticized, defiant, disappointed, let down, discounted, disliked, distrusted, dumped on. I feel dumped on. That's not a feeling. That is a thought. I feel embarrassed. I don't know
Embarrassed.
about that one.
Thought that was a
Yeah, that's
feeling.
one. Some of these I think are not absolutes. I agree. I think that you can have an internal experience, sensation that points more towards,
It's kind of similar
shame.
to disappointed, which is not technically on the list, however.
Yeah, well, because disappointed, it's on this list of it's disappointed is you think someone disappointed you did something that they shouldn't have done. That's what you're saying. You're saying, "I have thoughts that you did something that you shouldn't have done." It's not an internal experience. You might feel sad. We're gonna get more into that. We're gonna get into translating these in a second. So let me just keep going. Harassed, hostile, humiliated, hurt. That's another one of those that I think's on the cusp. I feel ignored or I feel left out. I feel insulted, interrupted. I feel intimidated, invalidated, isolated. I feel manipulated. I hear many people use that one. I feel manipulated. And then the person that is receiving you saying, I feel manipulated, is usually angry and pushes back because you just actually laid a judgment or a thought on them. And you didn't even realize that you did that. You thought you were expressing your feelings. And therein lies the problem with our communication. Okay. I'm keeping going
Well,
here.
yeah,
So,
like when you tell someone, "I feel manipulated," it is essentially implying, or rather, implying that they are manipulative.
yeah, or that you manipulated me. You're
Yeah,
really
you
saying,
were manipulative, so it's saying, "You did this, you are this."
right.
Yeah, and it's
Or
not taking accountability.
either you manipulated me or you are manipulative, but we couch it in the "I feel manipulated." And
And
that's that.
as we've discussed, it's so hard to refute someone's feelings as opposed to their thoughts.
Right, like, "Oh, I can't say that's what she's saying, that she feels manipulated." And then the person receiving it can get so confused, like, "Wait a second," like, they get upset, they get, probably what I would call defensive in that moment, and then there's confusion because that person was just sharing what they were feeling, but they really weren't. They actually were sharing a thought, a judgment, a faux feeling, a fake feeling, what we're calling fake feelings here. Um, I feel neglected. I feel outraged, overpowered, overworked. If you think you're feeling overworked, what is the internal sensation? What might you actually be feeling inside?
Exhaustion.
Yeah, I feel exhausted. Overwhelmed could be another one, right? Um, I feel powerless. I feel pressured, provoked. I feel put down, rejected, ripped off. I feel screwed. I feel smothered, suffocated, taken for granted. I feel taken for granted. No, you can't feel taken for granted. You have thoughts that someone is taking you for granted, right? It's a whole different thing.
What
What
would
else?
so maybe the feelings for that one would be like I feel
Angry,
angry or
frustrated,
yeah,
upset, and then you have a need. If you have thoughts that you are taken for granted, you might feel angry, sad, upset, and maybe the need is what might the need be?
consideration or
Consideration, knowing that you
acknowledgement.
matter, acknowledgement, appreciation. Probably
Mhm.
appreciation is a huge need that's coming up. Like, yeah, what's coming up for me is appreciation right now. Um, where was I? Taken for granted. I feel thwarted, trapped. I feel threatened. No, that's another one. Like people might think, of course I can feel threatened. No, you're actually thinking someone is threatening you. And how might you feel if you think someone's threatening you?
Scared.
Yeah, probably scared, maybe terrified, angry could be there. Could be a slew of true feelings, true uh, internal sensations that are more in alignment with what's going on. So a feeling is something that your body experiences. A thought is something that your mind is coming up with, right? That's the distinction here. I feel trampled, tricked. I feel unappreciated. I feel unloved, unwanted, used, victimized, wronged. Those of you out there listening to this, do you ever say these things to people? I feel wronged. I feel used. So, you know, number one, those are not helpful in forging the connection with the other person. They're not even really helpful in forging the connection with yourself. Can you speak to that a little bit, Heather?
About how using these faux feelings is not connecting, like self-connecting.
Yeah. Why would it take away from self connection if you were to say, I feel used? I just feel used.
Because then I think you get caught up in your story and you also there's no accountability. So,
That's
especially if you
blame.
say, "I feel used," yeah, you're in blame, and so
You're in
it's
blame, and usually when we're in blame, what emotion are do we feed when we're in blame?
anger.
Anger, right? So we're feeding that anger. We don't even realize that we're feeding it. There's a subtle difference if we were to translate that. Let's translate this into NVC language. Instead of saying I feel used, if you think that you're feeling used, what's the feeling? Ask yourself, what am I feeling underneath used?
Wish I had the needs sheet in front of me. Yeah, underneath used, probably frustrated,
Maybe you feel
angry.
frustrated, maybe you feel angry, maybe you feel upset, maybe even scared.
Mhm.
If you think that you're being used, scared can be there too. Could be a number. There's not any absolutes with it, but yeah. So I feel scared and upset, and then you say the need. What's the need? And that is about, if you think you're being used, that's about protection from harm. Probably, I need some protection from harm. Um, Notice the difference in that, getting clarity for yourself that I need protection from harm. I'm feeling scared and upset, and I maybe need some emotional safety and protection from harm, instead of saying I feel used. Like, one doesn't give me any direction really at all. When I say I feel used, it's just like you said, like putting the power over there to somebody else and blame, feeding my anger without even realizing that I'm feeding my anger, as opposed to saying, I feel angry. Like there's something, it's almost like, I don't know if this is true 100%. People can try this on, but it's almost like when you say and know and be with, I feel angry, and this is about, needing some protection from harm. It's almost like I don't feed my anger in that moment. I get a whole lot more clarity and a whole lot more direction. And so there ends up being relief because I have a way out of this, as opposed to just living in the place of I feel used and that person is a terrible person. And all that is just, like you said, just feeds the story without giving me any direction whatsoever.
Yeah, no direction or clarity.
Yeah, so it's not helpful for yourself in that moment. It actually, I find, helps a person be more confused, more disturbed in a moment like that. And then it certainly doesn't help if you go and you language that to the other person. I feel used. I mean, everyone out there, just try that on. If anybody ever says to you, I feel used, what's going to be your knee jerk response to that? Are you going to be like, oh my God, you know? No, I mean,
I mean,
probably you're going
people tend to take it pretty personally. Like if you're say it's the same thing as saying like I feel manipulated, I feel used, and then usually the other person is like, you think I
I
would
didn't
use
use
you?
you.
You think I would manipulate you? Now I use people, now I'm manipulative, so it's just really layering so much judgment and disconnection.
And again, I think before you know NVC, we don't even realize this is happening in our conversations. We really think I'm sharing how I feel. I'm sharing how I feel. I don't know why they're so upset. I just told them how I feel. No, you didn't actually. What you did was you laid a judgment on them and you didn't even realize you did that. And so of course they're defensive, and now you're confused because you think, and you're confused and even more angry because you think that you just shared your feelings with them and they weren't respectful of your feelings and blah blah blah. And this is why it's so fucked up out there. That's a judgment. But yeah, why there's not the level of clarity and connection that people are wanting when they go to share their feelings. Yeah. Are
Totally.
there any are there any on this list that stand out to you that you want to unpack just before we end for today?
I think I did clock neglected because I have heard that from people before. Not like
Mm,
necessarily in relation to me, but, I hear people say,
I feel
"I feel
neglected.
neglected," or like growing up, "I felt so neglected."
Yes. Yeah. So the question is, if you have one of these thought feelings and how do we translate it? Ask yourself, what am I feeling underneath neglected? Like if you think that you're feeling neglected, what are you feeling underneath neglected? What would you say?
Feeling sad, feeling lonely.
Mhm. I feel sad, I feel lonely. Yes, that seems to work. Again, there's no absolutes here. Lonely, sad, maybe scared.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And then what might be the need?
Need would probably be to know you matter, for connection, for care,
Companionship. Mhm.
companionship.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how we switch it. That's how we turn it, right? We state probably the observation, which we haven't gotten into here. And then rather than these, like starting to get really clear, keep away from these. When you're trying to share your feelings, keep away from these faux feelings because they will, I find, only just feed the fuel between two people. Feed the fuel internally for yourself and then feed the fuel between you and the other person. And so, again, what do you say? How do you express? Well, I think the way to start to know whether something is a faux feeling or not is try it on. Like if you think that the other person might get really upset hearing it, there's a good chance that it's because it's actually a judgment. And then you can say, okay, well, if I can't say I feel neglected, because that's just going to, cause more disconnection and upset with the other person. Well, what am I feeling under neglected? Can I say I feel lonely? Can I try that on? How would it maybe feel for the other person to hear I feel lonely? Oh, they probably won't like it. It probably won't be comfortable for them, but it's not going to feed the fuel. There's a difference. If you get anger back from the other person, it's probably because they're hearing judgment. And these are judgments. And they're going into their fight, fleas response. So I don't know. There are so many of these. Let me see if I could just pick out one more. I feel put down. You're basically saying, you're putting me down. That's really what you're trying to say. You're putting me down. I feel put down. So if imagine saying that to someone, I feel put down. Do you think the person will receive that with some openness, or do you think that they're going to push back on it? Oh, they're probably going to push back on it. Oh, it might be one of those faux feelings. Okay, if it is one of those faux feelings, what am I feeling underneath put down? What might I actually be feeling? I might be feeling scared. I might be feeling insecure.
Just asking what's underneath this. Is this going to be connecting, and what's underneath this?
And is it more connected to an internal sensation truly? And if you don't know what we have a feelings and needs list. You can get them, I believe, off of my website, or if you haven't bought my book, my link to Mildred, it's in the book also. Or you could just Google NVC feelings and needs list. There's a million bazillion of them out there. You could also Google NVC faux feelings so you could get this list if that's of interest to folks. And with that, I think we are pretty much out of time because we try to keep these short. I'm feeling paranoid. Would that be one? That we're over time?
Paranoid. Yeah. How are you really feeling?
Maybe insecure, maybe worried. Yes. I'm just trying those on because we say them quite a bit.
That's true. And if you want a faux feeling translated, you can call our empathy warm line at 850-706-0488.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today.
You've been listening to It's All About Connection, NVC with Dr. B. For more episodes and guest bios, please visit us at www.thebigbymethod.com. That's www.thebigbymethod.com. And remember, empathy first.